A wealthy restaurant owner disguised himself as a homeless man, and everyone mistreated him. The service was rude, customers looked at him with disgust, and some even kicked him out of his own restaurant. But when his true identity was revealed, everything changed. What happens next will shock you. Watch till the end for a powerful lesson. That morning, an old man, who was actually Mr. Anderson, the owner of a famous restaurant chain, decided to walk the streets in disguise. He wore ragged clothes, let his hair and beard grow messy, and wanted to see firsthand how his own employees and customers treated someone they saw as worthless. As he stepped into his restaurant, a waiter approached him with a scowl. "Sir, you can't be in here," he said firmly. Mr. Anderson smiled politely. "I just want to buy something cheap. I have a little money." The waiter scoffed. "We don't serve people like you. Leave before I call security." From behind the counter, the restaurant manager watched the scene unfold. Instead of stepping in, he chuckled and whispered something to a coworker. A well-dressed woman sitting nearby wrinkled her nose in disgust. "Homeless people shouldn't be allowed in places like this," she muttered. Mr. Anderson's heart sank. The restaurant he had built with hard work had become a place that humiliated those in need. He turned and walked outside, still in disguise. Customers passed by, not a single one acknowledging him. Until a little girl ran up to him. "Sir, are you hungry?" she asked innocently. Mr. Anderson smiled gently. "A little." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small piece of bread. "Here, this is all I have, but you can have it." Tears welled up in Mr. Anderson's eyes. Of all the people he had met that day, only a child had shown him kindness. Moments later, a restaurant employee stormed outside, looking furious. "Hey! I told you not to sit here. Leave." He shoved Mr. Anderson, nearly knocking him over. That was it. Mr. Anderson stood tall, dusted off his clothes, and spoke in a deep, authoritative voice. "Is this how this restaurant treats people?" The employee laughed mockingly. "And what if it is? Who are you going to complain to?" Mr. Anderson met his eyes. "To the owner of this restaurant." Silence. The employee frowned in confusion. "I am Anderson, the owner of this restaurant," he said, pulling off his worn-out hat. "And I just witnessed how you treat people you consider unworthy." The employee's face went pale. What? The waiter, the manager, and several customers stood frozen. Whispers spread through the room as people realized who he really was. The manager stepped forward, forcing a nervous smile. "Sir, we didn't know it was you." "We?" Mr. Anderson raised a hand. "That's exactly the problem. You only treat people with respect if you know who they are. But when someone truly in need comes to you, you turn them away." That day, Mr. Anderson made a major decision. He fired the heartless manager, disciplined the rude staff, and introduced a new policy. His restaurant would provide free meals every day to the homeless. News of this spread, not because of a viral video, but because of real change. Months later, his restaurant became a welcoming place for everyone. The homeless knew they could find a warm meal there. And the little girl who shared her bread? Mr. Anderson found her and offered her a full scholarship for her education. When a customer asked, "Why are you doing all this?" he simply smiled and said, "Because no human being deserves to be treated like garbage." Moral of the story. Too often, we judge people by their appearance. But true kindness is how we treat others, regardless of who they are. If you ever see someone in need, don't look away. Even the smallest act of kindness can change a life.